Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, and Thursday morning, September the 15th. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room is open. I did pop the link in there to what we're looking at still, continuing on. Looking at Robert Burney's web pages from Joy to Me and You, and that's www.joy2meu.com. And Robert Burney, he's a codependence therapist, a grief counselor. He's an author. He's written a book called Co-Dependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls. And it's a great book. And also he's written a whole lot of web pages for his website. And that's what we're looking at, inner child healing work mainly. That's what I'm working on in my healing journey. So thanks, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it because I've been doing these shows for almost 2 years, and November will be 2 years, and that's a lot of shows. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to tune into all my shows, and some of you have been here almost every day, and I just appreciate that very much. So I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows here on Blog Talk Radio, and I just wanted to be one more voice speaking out against abuse, and just one more voice talking about this stuff, and I decided to do this show in the morning to hopefully help other survivors to see what my process is that I'm doing for myself, like mainly self-help, with the help of a good friend. And, so I just thought it'd be maybe helpful for other people to see, the process that I'm going through, and also just to know that you're not alone. And, never give up, right? I just wanted to be one more voice out here, really. So I appreciate everybody who's tuning in, but I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, and you have to listen to my shows, all of them, at your own discretion. We have to know what's good for ourselves to listen to, so you make the right choice for yourself. And if you think the topics of abuse might bother you, then you need to not listen to my shows. If you're under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows from an adult. Have an adult listen to the show with you, and then they can help you make a decision if whether or not you should be listening age appropriately, because my shows are not for younger children, right? I'm talking about a lot of adult material, adult content. It is all about stopping child abuse and child abuse issues, but young people under the age of 18, you need to protect yourself, and you need to have someone listen to the show with you, an adult who's older, who can help you decide whether or not it's age appropriate for you. So we'll get right into this morning, and I'm looking at inner child healing from Robert Burney, called Processing. And it's called Inner Child Healing, the Process of Processing, and that's we're about, 3/4 of the way down the page, and that's www.joy2meu.com/processing.html. That's where the link is. And for those of you who are listening to archives or whatever, we're about, let's say, at least 3/4 of the way down the page. And yesterday we left off at this, where Robert Burney said, in this process, it's not just necessary to uncover and let go of the dysfunctional attitudes and false beliefs of childhood. We need to be willing to see and let go of our attitudes of 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago, or 3 days ago, because we are growing and changing. Our perspective keeps changing, and that means our relationships keep changing. So I think that's interesting. I'm always looking at changing my behaviors from the past, not necessarily changing my behaviors from even a year ago. So that is quite interesting to look at. That's the first time I've seen that. Robert Burney says, part of finding emotional balance involves accepting ourselves wherever we are in the moment. Accepting ourselves wherever we are in the moment. I can have a place where I feel very balanced emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, but still have some obvious imbalance in my relationship with my physical body. And Robert Burney says that is okay. That is part of the ongoing healing process. And I also have places in time when I feel no balance or clarity about anything, and that is okay too. He says, we are works in progress and process, but by not judging myself and buying into the belief that there is some destination I have to reach before it's okay to love myself, then I can have some moments of balance today. So that's awesome. I like what he says there. It's very important because I know myself, some days I feel like I'm making a lot of progress. And then other days, I think, I should be here, or I need there has to be a destination point, And I think that's just because we all want to feel better. Most of us who've been abused, would like to feel better about things. And it's always this whole hope and a goal and an idea that at one point we're just going to wake up one day and it's just going to be all better. It's like, well, maybe that's possible. And I wouldn't say that doesn't happen for some people, and that it couldn't happen. I'm just, for me, I'm just being realistic here, and there's better days than others. Some days are harder than others for sure, and I know that I've talked to a lot of survivors, and I think that's just the case. But that's just because we're human beings, just doing this process and living life, and things are gonna, we can't if we just continually judge ourselves and shame ourselves again for not being a certain place at our healing journey. I mean, then we're just gonna always be setting ourselves up for feeling bad about the whole thing, right? So I basically just do what I can with the time that I have, and don't worry about it, because time's pretty short, pretty precious, and we don't have, it's not like most of us can't control our whole day, because many of us have to work. Lots of people have to work full time. I'm looking for a job right now. I'm looking for full time work. I got to be working, right? And so I'm in between contracts. I do contract work, and I'm just waiting and looking for work, and it's hard, because in the meantime I got this healing journey to do, but also in the meantime I've got a relationship with my sweetheart, and I got pets to look after. I got myself to look after. So it all has to be in balance, and sometimes I think we want things to happen really fast. We want it to happen now, and that's just not always the case. I don't see that happening very often with much in life, right? So we need to sit back and just be in the moment, and accept where we are in the moment, and say, okay, this is where I'm at, and that's all right. And tomorrow's another day, or whatever, So he says here, it sure is a good thing that we aren't in control of this process, he says. Well, how about I'll go back up here. He says there's no destination to be reached. He says we will be growing and learning, uncovering and discovering, peeling away denial and releasing emotional energy for the rest of our lifetime, on subtler levels with less pain and discomfort as we heal. But it is an ongoing process nevertheless. Now that's interesting, because I know that I've seen this elsewhere, like in many of the workbooks and different things out there that I've seen, with written by psychotherapists and therapists, and some written by survivors, because I do a lot of reading, and they all pretty well all say the same thing, that this is it's a lifelong journey, and I can't imagine why it wouldn't be. It took my lifetime to get me where I am here today, so I can imagine it'll take my lifetime to get me where I need to go. So, I'm not looking for a quick fix, you know what I mean? And that's the whole issue. I'm looking just to learn to feel better and to change these negative belief systems that I had, growing up and carried with me all the way into adulthood. I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to grow and to mature, and to not let my inner children run my life. And and they need help. They were so wounded, and they need serious help. And there's all kinds of stuff that I need to do, and I'm not looking for a quick fix. So I just do what I can with what time I have, and then just try to enjoy the day while I can, right? So he says, it sure is a good thing that we aren't in control of this process. It's a good thing that we don't have to figure it out. We will be guided, he says. We are being led through the process. Our job is to pay attention and learn how to manifest as much love as possible into our dance in the moment. And in order to do that, he says, it's vital to start taking the shame out of the process. In one sense, the dance of recovery works like a pendulum swinging. The more we are in reaction out of shame, out of the right and wrong paradigm of the disease, the more extreme our swings are in both directions. We react to an emotional button being pushed, and then we react to our reaction with shame and judgment. The less we judge and shame ourselves, the less extreme our swings become. That's kind of interesting. But that's very true. We react to an emotional button being pushed, and then we react to our reaction about that with shame and judgment a lot of times, because we're just reacting to the buttons were pushed. Our emotional buttons were pushed, and then we make decisions, or we do things based on that, and they may not be the best decisions or the greatest decisions, because maybe the inner children are making those decisions, and then we might react to our own reaction with shame and judgment, saying, "Oh, here I go again." And I think it's important not to do that. We need to grow, we need to learn, so we have to be honest with ourselves, and that's what I do. I just try to be really honest with myself, and look at the situation and say, okay, maybe there was something I could have done that was better, or maybe because otherwise I'm not going to grow. If I don't, I'm not shaming and judging myself. I'm just doing a little bit of constructive criticism for myself, to say, well, possibly could have handled things a little bit better there, or made a different kind of decision there, or, instead of being hard on myself and those old tapes playing around and around again, I'm no good, I'm worthless, or whatever we might tell ourselves, right? Because that just keeps us in a cycle, and that's not good. That's that whole cycle self, like that whole negative self shaming and judging and stuff like that. And that's not good. So he says the more we do our emotional healing so that we are not taking life and other people so seriously and personally, the less power we give to old reactions. The more we take the power away from the old tapes and old wounds, the less extreme our swings become. The more the more gentle our swings, the easier it is to maintain some equilibrium, some semblance of balance. And gentle swings is what we're looking for, and that can only come by being gentle with ourselves. So it's kind of interesting, taking a look at it that way. And it's just so true, I guess what we need to do is stop giving that power to, because of those old reactions. Most people have been abused, especially as children, if you've been severely abused, it's real hard to not do that, to take people really seriously and take things really personally. And I know a lot of times, almost all the time I take everything a little bit too seriously, and that's just because that's the way I grew up. I had to take things seriously. You know what I mean? Like, when you're growing up abused, things are serious, right? And so it's you just learn how to do that. You learn to take everybody at their face value. If they say they're gonna hurt you, then pretty well they're gonna hurt you. My parents were highly abusive people, and they really didn't make too many threats without carrying them out. You know what I mean? Like they would, if my mom was gonna said something to me like I'm gonna kill you, she would literally try to kill me. She would choke me and beat on me and just slam me around and just vicious, And my dad was always threatening to kill us too, and he did try a couple of times. And so, you learn to take people pretty seriously when you're being abused as a child. You don't sit there and you're watching people. You're watching your family, and then you may watch externally people too. You know what I mean? Depending on who the abuser was. It doesn't matter who the abuser was, even if it was somebody outside the home. You're still going to be leery of people. You're gonna be watching what they're doing. You're going to be taking them seriously. And I think I've always done that, you know what I mean? And because I had to, just to survive in my home. And it was a serious issue. I didn't have a chance to be a normal child and just relax and play and enjoy myself, because I had to watch out all the time because there was always some crazy stuff going on. And so, it was very much a serious issue, right? And so as an adult, I take everything very seriously. It's like sometimes it's like, okay, I just need to mellow out, I just need to relax, and I've never been able to do it, and that's the whole issue. Like, I've always taken everything seriously, and I think that's just my makeup. That's now built in, that's ingrained, that's who I am, is I take life seriously, and that's why when I love somebody, I really love them, and when I don't like somebody, I really don't like them. It's a very serious issue. And when somebody says something to me, they better think about how they're saying it, because I will take it very seriously. It's not a joke to me. This life is not a joke, because it wasn't a joke. You know what I mean? Like having your head bashed in and being raped and sodomized is not a joke. It's like, come on. But see, other people in the world don't. It's not like I'm wearing a sign saying, "Hello, I'm a survivor of child physical, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse. I'm a survivor of child rape and sexual abuse." It's not like I wear a sign that says, you all need to be very careful because I'm taking you seriously. And if you want to maintain a relationship with me, you need to be 100% honest with yourself and me. I wish I could put a sign around, wear a jacket or something that just has all this stuff listed on the back, and just tell them to read it first, But the thing is this is not real life, People, it's just not going to happen. But the thing is really unfortunate, because then I'd probably meet some like-minded people who just would be decent people and okay to hang around with. But that's not reality, you know what I mean? But yeah, this is it, you know what I mean? Abused people do take things seriously, and I have to, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm just going to all of a sudden stop taking life serious, because life is serious to me. I used to watch my dad beat my mother, beat my brothers. That was serious. See, and I know that this stuff's happening out here today, so I don't live in some sort of pretend denial world, right? I don't live in some sort of pretend world where everything is great and it's all roses, right? It's all beautiful flowers and gardens. It's like, no. For some people that may be the case, but not for a lot of people. And so I know this, I live in reality, right? And so I can't, it's hard for me not to be a serious person, because I've seen a whole lot of damage in my lifetime, not just in my own family, but other people that I knew, other people growing up, lots of my friends and just people in my life, and all the way through, seen a lot of garbage. And what it does is it kind of It sets you up to take things seriously. You know what I mean? And so I do take people a little bit seriously, and I do take things seriously, but that's because that's what my life has been about. People, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you look at somebody else's life who's maybe they did a lot of traveling when they were children, and they did a lot of journaling and a lot of writing, and then they were involved in a lot of, maybe their parents were involved in government or something, and you know their parents were involved in politics or something, and then the child becomes that's part of their world. So then that child grows up and then into an adult, and then that adult then is involved with journalism, politics, and everything that those parents opened up that child's world to. You know what I mean? So that child becomes an adult who's part of that world and understands the flow and ebb of it, understands how it works, and can write and can be a part of that whole, political, governmental political stuff because they grew up in it. Well, I grew up in hell. I grew up in hell and misery and suffering. You could kind of equate it to probably the people of living on the streets in any country like India or anywhere else. You know what I mean, where people are dying and nobody's helping them. That's pretty well what I grew up in. It's just I grew up in North America. You know what I mean? And so people see me and they would not equate that because for some reason nobody seems to think that this stuff is reality. Nobody thinks that people would do these heinous things to their family members. They just don't, unless they've been there and seen it and done and had to live through it, right? And so, it's not a surprise that I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not a surprise at all that I'm fighting to stop child abuse, or that I'm, that I stand up for human rights, that I take people seriously, because that was my world. My parents set me up for this, right? They set this up. So it's like, it's not a surprise that I am this way, because could have either gone the other way. It could have gone into denial and just not cared at all. Which my sister's like that. She doesn't care. She doesn't care that people are dying or that kids are being killed and murdered and child abuse and stuff. She doesn't understand why I do what I do. Because she's in denial. She thinks our life was great. The only thing that she remembers about our childhood, because she doesn't remember anything at all, is that my mom used to bake cookies. She's like, oh, but Mom used to make cookies. That's the only memory that she kept because that was the only one that was any good, right? The rest was all garbage. So that's why she keeps this memory of my mom baking cookies, because that's the only way she can live. Because otherwise it would be like Mom hurt me, Mom hurt you, Mom was being hurt, Mom was suicidal, Mom was depressed, Mom was vicious, Mom didn't care. You're darn tooting about that one. Mom threw you out of the house. Mom was an evil person. She really was. And it's the same with my dad. If my sister can't remember any of her childhood on purpose, because this way she can just pretend it was all okay. So she doesn't understand why I'm out here fighting to stop child abuse. She doesn't think there's anything wrong with child abuse. She's like, child abuse? What's that? It's like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? We lived it. Grow up. Just wake up. Smell the coffee. But I can't do that to her because she's a survivor. She's DID, dissociative, and so I'm not gonna be rude to her and mistreat her. She's mistreated me my whole life, but I refuse to do that with her. The only thing I did do was cut her off. I did cut her out of my life. I cut my whole family out, actually, thank God. But the thing is there's lots of people who will do denial, and they, and so I don't know, denial doesn't get us anywhere. Right, because someday she's going to have to face this stuff. It may never hit her. She may get to be to the end of her years or whatever, without having it actually open up to her. But I seriously doubt it. I think at some point it's going to hit her, and she's going to be an old woman. And I mean, that's sad. You know what I mean? That's why I decided just to do reality. You know what I mean? And work through this stuff. But yeah, this is the whole thing. We don't have to give so much all that power to these other things. You know what I mean? Like he's saying. He says the less power we give to the old reactions, the better off we're going to be, right? He says the more we take the power away from the old tapes and old wounds, the less extreme our swings become of the pendulum, right? Either side, one way or the other. And that's very true, and that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. I haven't completely mastered it yet, but what I have learned how to kind of shut those old tapes out, those old tapes that play around in my head that make me. For instance, my mother's voice that would play around in my head, cursing me, calling me names, and saying all these hurtful things to me, that was all still there and still is. But what I've done is I've actually learned how to just say, I don't have to listen to that anymore. I don't believe it. You know what I mean? That wasn't true at all. And so every time I hear that negative stuff come into my mind from whoever it was that said it, these old tapes that play around, these old words, these hurtful things, I just say I didn't deserve that. That was not true at all. It doesn't belong to me, and I don't have to listen to that. And I am a good person. So what I do is I do a whole lot of positive thinking, positive affirmations, and positive stuff for myself when that happens. And that what that's done is set up. It takes the power away from those things, because I know that was not true and all that was just garbage. It was just put on me by hurtful people, right? So that I don't have to pay attention to that stuff. It doesn't belong to me. That was just their anger, their frustration, their problem, not mine. So I had to learn that not to take it personally, because that was just garbage and so long ago. It wasn't true anyway. None of it was true anyway. So he says, by getting in touch with and building an ongoing relationship with the different inner child places within us, we are able to recognize and respond more quickly when we get triggered. So when we get triggered, multiple old wounds can be triggered at the same time. And the reopening of old wounds triggers old defenses to kick in, so that the lonely, needy child reacts out of a deeply painful place, which triggers the older child, who had to get tough to react with disdain and hatred for the needy part of self, and the internal battle is often running. It isn't that the truth, you know what I mean? Like this is exactly kind of where I'm at, is that these old wounds, get triggered, and I have more than one inner child who's wounded, and they all take their roles, right? And so it's, he's so right. The reopening of these old wound triggers old defenses to kick in, so that the lonely, needy child reacts out of a deeply painful place, which triggers the older child, who had to get tough to react with disdain and hatred for the needy part and all this. And the inner child work that I've been doing is really quite interesting, because I've actually gotten in touch with quite a few of them, and I do go and I do my visualizations and stuff like this, and they will actually talk to me. These are myself talking to me. These aren't other people. This is me, and I can hear my own voice, and I can see, what happened. They all, like the older one recognizes what happened to the younger one, and it's really, really bizarre. But it is helping me to be able to do this, because I needed to, because for so long I had these inner children. I thought I had one inner child within me that was raging and screaming, and it actually turned out to be more than one. And these are all the points where I got stuck, and I can even visualize what kind of clothes, what I'm wearing. So I know exactly where it was, where I got stuck, and what happened to cause me to be stuck there, And it was trauma to my body, trauma to my mind, trauma to my whole psyche, right? And that's from being beaten and trashed and nearly killed and being raped and sodomized and all this, right? That's horrible trauma. Nobody should ever have to go through that. And it doesn't matter whether it's your parent or somebody else doing it. I don't care. When your life is being threatened, and you're being attacked, physically attacked, viciously attacked, you're going to have some serious, problems with that. Most people do, especially a small child. It's hard enough for an adult to be attacked by another adult, but let alone a small child. And especially when the abuse has just gone on, and these people, that's why I wrote my books. I really wanted people to see a picture of just how vicious my parents really were, because I was like, I want people to know that just because somebody has the name mother and somebody has the name father, that doesn't mean that they are going to be a good mother or a good father. There's a whole lot of evil people out there with the name mother and father, and they do some horrific things to their children and to other people's children, guaranteed. And this is, I decided that, I'm going to write it, and I'm going to write it, and I'm actually, I'm doing small books right now, because I'm just learning how to do it and learning how to get out what I need to say, and really I needed to do it right away, and so I just wrote some small books, Life of Death and Redemption, and which was a blog originally, and then I wrote La Vida Juvies, which was one summer with my friends, so the last summer before I became a heavy-duty drug user, and, the stuff that was happening that summer, and just pretty harsh, and this just went on for years and years and years. Well, I'm eventually going to write the whole thing, you know what I mean? And I'm going to really, it's going to show word for word exactly, it's going to paint a picture so that people will be able to see how evil people really are, you know what I mean? And it's my hope and my goal to shed some light on this, because my parents had support. My parents had friends. They used to go play cards at people's homes, and my parents had support because they were two different people. They were 3 or 4 different people, actually. They could go have fun, play cards, and then they could come home and they could beat on each other. They could hurt each other. My dad could rape my mother, And my mother could beat the shit out of me, and then 2 weeks later they're back over playing cards and drinking coffee and having a good time. My parents were very much mentally ill, right? And they were diagnosed mentally ill at the time. They had to, because the social workers were involved. And my parents got busted and charged with child abuse, and they had to go for psych tests, and see if what exactly was the issue, because the courts were going to remove us. And they were diagnosed mentally ill, both of my parents at that time. And they didn't do any time, and they were allowed to keep us in the home. Isn't that sweet? Well, that's 1967, 1968. There you go. Nothing was really done until the 1990s. Start looking around at the information that's out there. There hasn't been much done since then either, because the system still doesn't work. But anyway, so this is what we have to do. When we get triggered, multiple old wounds can be triggered at the same time. This is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, is so that I don't have base all my decisions and my relationship stuff and my belief systems so that my inner children don't run my life. Because that's exactly kind of what's been happening over the years. Every time something happens that hurts me, that either offends me or hurts me or makes me feel like I did as a child, being beaten or being hurt, being ridiculed, being told that I didn't matter, I didn't count, and I should have died, and all this other stuff, and just being hurt, Then these old wounds, many times there's multiple levels of them. And then I make decisions based on my inner wounded children who are hurting still, right? And so that's what I'm doing, is trying to get in touch with them to heal, to help them to heal, because I see that I don't want to think of myself being that age still suffering on inside of myself, which is exactly what's happening. It's these old wounds that I just need to get a hold of. I just need to learn how to do this work. So I bought that book, John Bradshaw's Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, and that's good. That is such a great book, man. I'm just about ready to start the inner child healing work there, and you want to talk about amazing, like the stuff that you get to do, journaling and self affirmations and working with our inner children. So I can't recommend this for anybody else. You know what I mean? Like I just recommend it for me because it's working for me, but it may not work for somebody else, and I'm okay to do this on my own. I've been on my healing journey 4.5 years. I mean, I've been on my own my whole life. You know what I mean? Like I've never had any help. There hasn't anybody, except for I have a good couple of good friends actually. I have a few good friends who are really kind of helping me out through this. So I'm not really on my own, right? Which is great. So when I say self-help, I'm not necessarily always on my own. The issue is I'm not doing any professional therapy and stuff like that. I'm not under the care of a professional therapist or counselor. I'm just doing it self-help. But I'm okay to do it, and that's the whole issue. And so I've had to do this my whole life, so I know I'm fine. But I wouldn't recommend other people do it on their own. It's something that you have to be very sure, very careful with. It's not something to mess around with, because you have to do the grief work with it, and you're going to be able. What it does is it opens up the door to a lot of old stuff that you may have not have looked at for a long time. They may have put away in a closet, not open that door for a long, long time. And sometimes, when you open that door, you don't even know how you're going to react, right? So that's why it's very important. You don't want to start stuff like this. Like even other people will say this, and other workbooks and other psychologists and everybody, they all say the same thing. Don't do it unless you're absolutely sure. It's best to do it in a group setting or with somebody or with your therapist or counselor or whatever, And so, I'm just doing it on my own because I know that I can. But not everybody probably can. So you need to be very, very careful, and there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that at all, because we've all been through some horrific stuff, and some of us have been through some more horrific stuff. You know what I mean? And some of us have been through. I mean, it's ridiculous what we've all been through, and none of us deserved it. I tell you that. I'm speaking directly to survivors of horrific and heinous abuse. And so none of us deserve this garbage, and we all deserve so much better. So we have about a minute left, so we'll look at it tomorrow, and you can look at it yourself, www.joy2meu.com. That's joy, Joy, the number 2, MEU, the letters MEU.com /processing.html. That's Robert Burney's webpage, is Joy to Me and You. And looking at the inner child healing work. He's got a whole section there about inner child healing work. And that's what we've been working through here for about 3 months, a whole bunch of stuff on his web pages. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great day, and I'll be back on tomorrow morning, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. Next week I'm actually switching to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. But I'm just going to go for an hour instead of a half hour. because I'm doing the child healing work and I don't have a whole lot of time, and so I need to do this for myself. So it's unfortunate, but I'm kind of having to squeeze it in there. So I thought I'd just switch my shows to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings for this show and do an hour instead of a half an hour, right? And so I appreciate everybody for being here with me, and I hope that, if I can get you anything, let me know if I can help you find resources or information. That's what I'm here to do, right? So leave me a message on Blog Talk Radio, contact me on my email, Facebook, whatever. And, if you want to, if you're looking for a friend, I always need friends, and I can use all the friends I can get, right? So, but make sure you stick around and do not ever, ever, ever give up. No, it's just not an option. Don't allow that to be an option. It's just not an option. It's not an option for me. I'm going to keep on going, and I'm the one who's going to be. I'm going to be all victorious in this. I know this because I'm going to allow myself to do what I need to do to feel better about this life and to do what I need to do to help myself. And so I just want to be one more voice of encouragement, not to ever give up. Right. So have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye bye.